The first time Neil demanded money to see my grandsons, I laughed. Not because it was funny, God no, but because I thought it was a joke. Some offhanded, tasteless remark he'd walk back with a smirk and one of his patented oily shrugs. But he didn't laugh, didn't blink. He just stood there in my doorway, buttoned up in that slim-fit blazer like some second-rate consultant off LinkedIn, and said, "You want weekends with Micah and Tyler? $2,000. Per weekend." I said nothing at first, just nodded like I was considering it, like maybe I'd reached the age where I'd finally pay to play grandpa. Then I excused myself, walked into the hallway, and returned with an envelope. Handed it to him with a straight face, that smug little lift at the corners of his mouth, like he thought he'd won something, vanished the moment he opened it. It wasn't money inside, it was paperwork. Neatly folded copies of every payment I'd ever made on their mortgage, deed documents, notarized loan agreements, and one single handwritten note. "This is what you owe me, not for the boys, for the house." His face went gray first, then red. Then he started yelling. I didn't yell back. I just stepped around him and poured myself a coffee like he wasn't even there. Let him stand in my foyer barking threats, trying to salvage whatever leverage he thought he had. It's hard to play the power game when the roof over your head belongs to the man you're trying to shake down. Anyway, that was 2 months ago. And this morning? Well, I was halfway through the sports section, Rays down 2 in the ninth, when I heard that familiar purr pull into my driveway. BMW pearl white, overpolished and underpaid. Neil. No knock. He never knocked. Just let himself in like it was still his house, or like he believed I was too old to stop him. "Carl," he said, grinning like a man who just figured out how to win a game he was still losing. "Good to catch you home on a Saturday." He always starts that way. Friendly, harmless. The venom comes later. "You got a minute?" he asked, settling into the armchair across from mine like we were on equal footing. "Wanted to run something past you." I folded my paper with precision, creasing it right down the middle. A small act, but deliberate. Fire captains know how to control a scene. "I've got time." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Salesman posture. The exclusive offer was coming. "There's this investment opportunity," he began. "Real estate syndication in Tampa, ground floor stuff. My partner needs commitments by Monday. I'm $5,000 short." $5,000. Always a number. Always a deadline. I took a sip of my coffee. Cold. "What happened to the other opportunities?" I asked. He blinked. That smile flickered. "What do you mean?" "February 2023, consulting gig. That was $3,000. Then cryptocurrency in July. 4. April last year. That marketing venture. 5,000 more." I met his eyes. "That's 12,000 total, Neil." I kept track. The mask slipped. Just a little. He leaned back, the friendly facade cracking at the edges. "Those were investments, Carl, not loans. You know how business works. There's risk involved. 2 years is plenty of time." I set the mug down on the side table. Slowly. Carefully. "The answer's no." He stood, fast. Not quite violent, but calculated. 3 steps toward the window. 3 back. A man trying to burn off rising panic with motion. "You spent 30 years running into fires, Carl. What do you know about building wealth in 2025? He gestured at my house. Modest furniture. Dated carpet. Clean, but unremarkable. "You're sitting here with the same couch, same routine, same outdated mindset. The world moved on." "I'm comfortable," I said. "I earned what I have." He laughed, bitter. "Comfortable gets you nowhere. Effie and I are trying to build something for your grandson's future. Ancient history is $12,000 I'll never see again." That was the breaking point. He came closer, too close. Made sure I had to look up slightly to meet his gaze. Tried to dominate the moment. "Let me explain something to you, old man," he said, slow and deliberate. "You think you understand modern business because you read the newspaper and watch Bloomberg? You don't. This is real. This is happening. with or without you. I'm giving you a chance to be part of your grandson's future. I am part of their future. Are you? He asked. And this time he wasn't playing dumb. Because from where I'm standing, you're choosing money over family. The threat wasn't spoken aloud, but it didn't need to be. It hovered in the air between us like smoke thickening in a hallway. The answer is still no. My voice was quiet, but firm. The same tone I'd used when telling a rookie firefighter to back out of a collapsing structure. And just like that, whatever thread of civility was left snapped. He stepped back, straightened his jacket. The salesman was gone. Your choice, he said. But don't be surprised if you stop hearing from Effie. Forget about Micah and Tyler. He turned toward the door. That's your decision right there, he added. Think about what you're giving up over $5,000. Then he left. The door didn't slam. He closed it with the kind of care that meant finality. I stood there listening to the sound of his BMW backing down the driveway, tires crunching over the gravel. The mug was still warm in my hand, the sports section folded beside me. Everything looked the same. But something had changed. Something that didn't go back. If you want to hear what came next, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, what would you have done? The thing people don't tell you about betrayal is how quiet it is. No shouting, no knife through the ribs, just a phone that doesn't ring. A knock that never comes. The slow fade of someone you raised into someone you don't recognize. That night I called Effie. First time went to voicemail. Her voice chipper, recorded months ago. Hey, it's Effie. Can't get to the phone, but leave a message and I'll call you back. She didn't. Second time it rang 4 times, then nothing. Third time I let it go 15 rings before the system cut me off. Fourth time she picked up. Dad, I can't, she whispered. I froze. Effie, what's going on? Talk to me. I have to go. Click. The line went dead. 6 seconds. That's all I got. I sat there in the kitchen, phone still in my hand, every second ticking louder in my head. I tried again, straight to voicemail. I left a message. Effie, it's your father. I need to know you and the boys are okay. Please, call me. She didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I made dinner, grilled chicken, rice, chewed without tasting. Kept my phone face up on the table. No messages, no missed calls. Just silence. By Sunday morning, I'd made my decision. It took 15 minutes to drive to Maple Ridge Drive. I knew the turns by muscle memory, could do it blindfolded, but that morning, every mile dragged. Every red light felt personal. This wasn't a visit. It was reconnaissance. Their house looked the same. Red brick, white shutters, lawn trimmed, mulch fresh, landscaping I'd paid for. Neil's BMW sat in the driveway like a trophy. I parked at the curb. Before I even knocked, I saw shadows moving inside. Neil opened the door. Didn't step aside, didn't invite me in. Carl, he said flatly, this isn't a good time. Behind him I saw Micah and Tyler on the living room floor, building something with blocks. Effie moved through the kitchen, setting plates. A normal Sunday morning scene, if you didn't listen too hard. I'd like to see them, I said, keeping my voice level. Just for a few minutes. Like I said, he replied, shifting his stance to fill the doorway. Not a good time. They're busy. We've got a schedule. 5 minutes. No. Then Micah's voice pierced the room. Grandpa? The boys rushed the door before Neil could stop them. Micah pushed against his father's legs. Tyler ducked under his arm, launching into my arms like it had been years. Grandpa, we made a fort yesterday and Mom let us sleep in it, and I lost another tooth. He pulled his lip down to show the gap. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Micah was still trying to get past Neil, who grabbed him by the shoulder. Boys, Neil snapped. Inside. Now. But Grandpa's here. I said now. Tyler hesitated in my arms, confused. sensing the tension but not understanding it. "It's okay, buddy," I said, setting him down. "You go on. I'll see you soon." Both boys shuffled back toward the living room, heads down. That joy, pure, unquestioning, had already faded. Effie appeared behind Neil. We locked eyes. She looked thinner than I remembered. Shoulders curled inward. Her mouth moved, like she was trying to say something. I couldn't tell if it was sorry or help. Then Neil spoke. "Here's how this works, Carl," he said casually. "If you want time with Micah and Tyler, the rate is $2,000 per weekend." I blinked. "Excuse me? That's my time you're taking. My disruption. Call it a consultation fee." He delivered the words like he was announcing a business merger, not a threat, a policy. "You want to be grandfather of the year? That's the price." Behind him, Effie leaned against the wall like she might collapse. I nodded. "I see. That's what I thought." He stepped back to close the door. "I'll let you know," I said. He gave a final, smug smile. "Good talk." The door closed. I heard the deadbolt slide. I stood there staring at the brass numbers nailed to the house I'd paid off. The doormat read, "Welcome home." I walked back to my truck, sat in the driver's seat, and didn't start the engine. Inside, Micah and Tyler had returned to their blocks. I watched Tyler glance toward the door, once. Then Neil said something, and he turned back to his fort. That was the last time I stood on their porch uninvited, and the last time Neil would name the price of my family, because I wasn't going to buy my grandson's love. I was going to take back what he'd built his arrogance on, piece by piece. Back home, I didn't make coffee, didn't turn on the radio, or finish the paper. I walked straight to the bedroom, opened the closet, and knelt in front of the safe. 3 turns right, 2 left, 1 right. The dial clicked into place with a soft, satisfying thunk. Inside, folders, documents, records, my life boiled down into paper and ink. I pulled out the thickest one, labeled in my handwriting, Maple Ridge Property. Carried it to the kitchen table, sat down, opened it. Everything was there. The check stubs from the bank withdrawals, the mortgage statements with red paid stamps across the top. The final letter from SunWest Bank, dated 18 months ago, thanking me for paying off the loan in full. The payoff had taken 3 years, $73,000 total. Spread out across 27 months. I'd made each payment on time, quietly, no strings. Because Effie had called me crying. Because she was scared. Because Tyler had just turned 4 and didn't need to know what foreclosure meant. At the bottom of the folder, clipped behind the receipts, was a copy of the deed. I slid it out, flattened the creases, and read it for the first time in years. March 15th, 2022. That was the notarized date. The day I signed the documents that made it official. Carl Cruz had paid off the mortgage on 2847 Maple Ridge Drive. But this time, I noticed the details I'd missed before. Specifically, secured loan agreement. The notary, an older man named Hendricks, had walked me through the paperwork at a strip mall off Dale Mabry. He wore glasses on a chain and read every clause aloud. "You can structure this as a gift," he'd said, "or you can do it properly, as a loan, secured by the property." He'd tapped the page. "A gift is final. No recourse. A loan gives you protection. Families have misunderstandings. You'll want it in writing." I'd hesitated. He leaned forward, sensing my discomfort. "You're not saying you don't trust them. You're saying you're protecting your interests. This isn't personal. It's prudent." So I'd signed it as a loan. Back then, it had felt cold, maybe even wrong, but I did it anyway. And now, thank God I had. Because that secured loan, it meant something. It meant leverage. I pulled a fresh notebook from the kitchen drawer and wrote on the first line, Neil Morrison, account, then I started listing. Feb 2023, $3,000. Consulting gig, July 2023, $4,000. Crypto platform, April 2024, $5,000. Marketing project, mortgage payments, Jan 2022 to June 2023, $73,000, March 2025, $2,000. Weekend demand for grandsons. Total, $87,000. I stared at the number. $87,000. Every cent borrowed on the back of promises. I'd believed him, or wanted to. Now he was selling access to my grandchildren like tickets to a game. I flipped back to the deed and read the clause again. In the event of default, lender maintains primary interest in the property. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't just some grandfather standing on a porch, begging for scraps of affection. I had documents. I had rights. I had a claim. And Neil? Neil was living in a house he didn't own, bought with money he never earned, wearing clothes he couldn't afford, and pretending he held the cards. He didn't. I did. I set the folder aside, turned on my laptop, and typed into the search bar, Property Law Attorney, Tampa Secured Loan Foreclosure, Florida. Pages of results. I clicked through 3 before landing on a firm that looked right. Clean site, good reviews. Specialties in property recovery, office downtown, Buchanan and Associates. I clicked the contact link and stared at the phone number. Didn't call. Not yet. I wasn't ready to act. Not fully. Not until I had a plan. But I'd spent 30 years running toward burning buildings. This wasn't a fire. It was a slow, steady rot. And I was done pretending it would fix itself. The next morning, I drove to Home Depot. Bought new monofilament line, replacement hooks, a few soft plastic lures in chartreuse. The good ones, Tyler's favorite color. Then I took the tackle box down from the garage shelf, wiped off the dust, and started re-rigging the rods. Line through the eyelets, knots tied clean, the same way I'd shown the boys each spring. I circled April 19 on my kitchen calendar in red marker. Lake Tarpon, base season opener. I was taking my grandsons fishing, one way or another, even if I had to take back the whole damn house to do it. By the second week of April, I'd called Buchanan and Associates twice. First time I hung up before they answered. Second time, I left a message. Name's Carl Cruz. I have a secured loan in default on a residential property. Need to understand my options. They called back the next morning. The receptionist was sharp, polite, professional, like someone who'd fielded 100 calls like mine. We'll schedule a consult, Mr. Seri. Buchanan has availability Wednesday afternoon. Can you be downtown at 2, sir? I could. I wore slacks and a button-down. No tie. Still crisp. The kind of clothes I wore for fire department inspections or budget meetings when I needed to look like more than just a guy who'd spent his life in turnout gear. The building was glass and steel, clean lines, high ceilings, air that smelled like citrus polish and control. Mr. Cruz, the receptionist said as I walked in, Mr. Buchanan will see you shortly. His office was on the 5th floor. Big window with a view of downtown Tampa. Walls lined with legal books and framed photos of him shaking hands with important-looking people. Navy suit, silver tie, silver hair. Please, he said, standing to greet me. Have a seat. I reviewed the message you left. I handed him the folder, neatly organized. The deed, the payment records, the loan agreement, the notarized signatures. He didn't rush, flipped through each page with methodical care. You structured this as a secured loan, he said finally, tapping the line. Recorded with the county. Excellent. And they've made no payments? Not a single one. For how long? 3 years. And now he's demanding money for me to see my grandkids. Buchanan raised an eyebrow. Extortion doesn't help his case. I'm not here for revenge, I said. But I need to get my house back, or remind him whose name is on the deed. He nodded slowly. You have 2 options, foreclosure or negotiated recovery. Foreclosure takes longer, months, court filings, notice periods, formal process. But it's airtight, especially with this documentation. And negotiated? You serve notice. Inform him that unless payments resume immediately, You intend to reclaim the property. Sometimes that prompts a settlement, a voluntary move-out, especially if they know they're exposed. I looked out the window. Far below, traffic crept along Franklin Street. Pedestrians moved like dots. What would you do? He paused. I'd serve the notice. Formal, registered mail. Make it real. Let him respond. If he refuses to cooperate, we begin foreclosure. You've been more than patient. I nodded. Do it. He smiled. Small, professional. I'll have the papers drafted today. You'll receive a copy to sign tomorrow. We'll serve by Monday. I signed a retainer agreement. $3,000 up front. Another check from what was left of my retirement savings. Every time I thought about that number, it stung. But every time I thought about Neil's smirk, it stung worse. As I left the office, Buchanan stopped me at the door. Mr. Cruz, I've seen cases like this before. Sons-in-law, nephews, second husbands. People who think blood is leverage, but paper doesn't lie. You've got a strong case. I nodded. It's not just about the case. I know. He didn't need to say more. Back home, I opened my tackle box again, checked the lures, recoiled the line on Micah's rod. Then I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out my notebook. Under the last entry, I wrote, April 15th. Eviction notice served. I stared at the words. Let them settle into me. Then I turned to a fresh page and wrote a new header. What comes next? Pack extra sandwiches. Tyler eats 2. Bring sunscreen. Micah burned last spring. Replace reel on backup rod. Check dock permits. Renew if expired. Not legal notes. Not financial tracking. Just what mattered. Lake Tarpon was circled on the calendar. April 19th. 4 days away. I was reclaiming more than a house. I was reclaiming a promise. The envelope went out on a Monday. Certified mail. Signature required. Neil signed for it at 3:42 p.m., according to the USPS tracking. I didn't call, didn't text, just waited. 3 days passed with nothing. Then Friday morning, 9:17 a.m., the BMW pulled up in front of my house. Didn't park in the driveway this time. Just idled by the curb like a getaway car. Neil didn't knock. Again. Just walked in, tossing the envelope onto my kitchen table like it was trash. What the hell is this? I didn't look up from my coffee. Legal notice. He stepped closer. You're trying to evict your own daughter, your grandsons. I'm reclaiming property tied to an unpaid debt. The documents are clear. This is how you want to play it? You started playing when you put a price on my grandsons. His voice rose, panicked and angry. It was a figure of speech. No, it wasn't. You meant it. And now you're standing in a house that doesn't belong to you, trying to tell me I'm the villain. He glanced around like he expected someone else to back him up. Effie's falling apart. The boys don't understand what's going on. You're tearing this family in half. No, I said, finally looking up. You did that the day you turned access to my grandkids into a transaction. He took a breath. Tried a new angle. We could work something out. Payment plan. I've got deals in the pipeline. Just need time. You've had 3 years. I mean serious income, Carl. My crypto portfolio's rebounding. I've got a guy in Clearwater building a real estate fund. I just need bridge capital. I laughed, quietly, bitterly. You think I'm going to write you another check after all this? His jaw twitched. The charm cracked completely. You think a judge is going to side with you? You think you're going to win? I already have, I said, because I'm not afraid of you anymore. He froze. Just for a second, like the idea genuinely hadn't occurred to him. You always needed something from me, I continued. Money, approval, bailouts. That was your power. But now, I don't owe you a damn thing. And I'm done pretending you're family just because we share a mailing address. He turned and walked to the door, hand on the knob, then stopped. You go through with this, he said. You'll never see them again. You understand that? Never. He said it like it was the final card, the one he'd been holding. I just looked at him. Then I said, We'll see. He left. I stood there in the kitchen for a long time. The legal envelope sat between my coffee mug and the photo of Effie and the boys on last year's fishing trip. That photo always gets me. Micah, holding up the fish he caught, nearly as long as his arm. Tyler beaming like he'd won a prize. Effie behind them, sun in her hair, arms around their shoulders. No Neil in that picture. He'd stayed behind that day. Too busy, he'd said. But I'd always wondered if it was really just beneath him. Getting up at 5 a.m., digging for worms, untangling lines. Too ordinary for his vision of success. Saturday morning arrived like a promise. I packed the truck, cooler, rods, tackle box, extra sandwiches, sunscreen. I even brought Tyler's favorite hat, navy blue with a stitched red bass across the front. At 9:45, I parked in front of their house. They were waiting at the curb. Micah had his backpack slung over one shoulder. Tyler was bouncing on his toes. "Grandpa!" Tyler shouted as soon as he saw me. "You brought the good tackle box." "Wouldn't dream of bringing anything else," I said, helping him into the front seat. Micah climbed in behind him. "Are we going to the same spot?" "That's the plan." The front door opened. Neil stood in the doorway, arms crossed, saying nothing. Effie was behind him. She gave me a small, quick wave. It looked like apology. Or relief. We pulled away. In the rearview mirror, Neil turned and walked back inside, letting the screen door swing shut behind him. He didn't try to stop us. Didn't even wave. That was the moment I knew something had shifted. Something permanent. He knew he'd lost control. And I think Effie knew it too. We drove toward Lake Tarpon in silence for a few minutes. Then Micah said, "You think we'll beat our record from last year?" I smiled. "Only one way to find out." They grinned. Tyler adjusted his hat. Micah unpacked the snacks. And just like that, we were a family again. Not because the law said so, not because the house was mine, but because I showed up, because I kept showing up, because no one could price that, not even Neil. Lake Tarpon was already humming when we got there. Boats easing out from the ramps, the smell of water and sun-warmed reeds, the distant thrum of someone's portable radio playing country low and steady. I parked near the dock, same as always. The boys jumped out before I'd even killed the engine. Micah grabbed the rods. Tyler headed for the cooler, then turned around and ran straight back to me. "You packed the peanut butter sandwiches, right?" he asked, eyes big like the world might actually end if I forgot. "In the side pocket, right next to the gummy worms." He nodded like I'd passed some kind of test. "Good. Micah gets mad if you bring tuna." I ruffled his hair. "Noted." We walked out to the dock together, just the three of us. No schedules, no demands. Just a tackle box, 2 rods, and time. Time, I was beginning to realize, was the most valuable thing I had left, and maybe the only thing they couldn't take from me. Tyler wanted to bait his own hook this year. I let him. Watched as he awkwardly pushed the plastic worm onto the hook, tongue poking out with concentration. Micah was more confident now, cast clean, line straight. He didn't ask for help, just turned his cap backward and stared at the water like he knew what he was doing. They were growing up, fast, too fast. "Last time we came here, Tyler lost his shoe," Micah said. "I did not," Tyler shot back. "It fell in the water. That's different. It was floating and you cried." "I was 4, I smiled. "Still counts as crying." Tyler looked betrayed. "Et tu, Grandpa?" "Hey, I'm just saying, shoes don't grow on trees." They kept casting, kept laughing, and I just sat there, soaking in every moment. Sometime around noon, Tyler got a hit. His rod bent double, reels screaming. I got one! I got one!" Micah dropped his sandwich and scrambled over. "Set the hook! Pull back, not up!" "I'm trying." I got behind him, helped him steady the rod. "Ease it. Let him run a little. Then reel slow." It took a minute, maybe 2, but he got it in. A fat, shimmering bass, easily 2 pounds. Not the biggest I'd seen, but it might as well have been a shark for how proud Tyler looked. Micah gave him a fist bump. "That's actually decent." I snapped a picture on my phone. Tyler holding it up, grinning so wide his missing tooth showed, hair plastered to his forehead from excitement. A real photo. No stage smiles, just joy. We caught 5 more before the sun started to dip, packed up, loaded the truck, headed back. The ride home was quiet. Tyler dozed off halfway, mouth open, hat over his eyes. Micah leaned against the door, humming to himself. When we pulled up in front of their apartment, Effie was already outside waiting. She looked tired, not just physically. I mean tired in the soul. Like someone who'd been rowing against a current for too long and finally realized the boat wasn't moving. "Did they behave?" she asked as I helped Tyler out of the car. "Better than I did," I said. "They even shared the last cookie." She smiled faintly, took Tyler's hand as he sleepwalked up the steps. Micah lingered behind, fishing rod still in hand. "Thanks, Grandpa." "Anytime, buddy." He hesitated. "Can we go next week too?" I nodded. "Every Saturday. It's the law now." He laughed. "Cool." He disappeared up the stairs. Effie didn't follow them immediately. She stayed at the bottom step, arms crossed, watching me. "I saw the eviction notice," she said softly. My stomach tightened. "Effie..." "No," she cut me off. "You don't have to explain. I read the paperwork. I remember that notary appointment. I didn't think it would ever come to this." "I didn't either," I said. Silence stretched between us. "He's not handling it well," she said finally. "He's scrambling, blames everyone but himself." "That sounds about right," she nodded. "He says you'll destroy us." I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "I'm trying to save you." Her eyes welled. She blinked it back fast. "I know." Then she turned and walked up the stairs, not looking back. I watched until she reached the top, until the door closed behind her. Then I stood there in the driveway, streetlights flickering on above me, holding the tackle box like a reminder of something good, something whole. This was just the beginning. The court dates were coming, the deadlines, the pressure. But so was Saturday. So were the boys. And that, right now, was enough. The following Tuesday, Buchanan called me at 10:13 a.m., right in the middle of my crossword. I paused halfway through 8-letter word for exploiter. Ironic timing. "Mr. Cruz," he said, "we've received a formal response. He's filed a countersuit." I didn't say anything at first, just reached for my coffee, cold again. "He's claiming the house was a gift," Buchanan continued, tone clipped. "No expectation of repayment. Wants the eviction dismissed with prejudice." "A gift?" I repeated. "He's leaning on family ties, that it was given out of affection, that you never asked for repayment before now." I shook my head, mostly to myself. "So the notarized loan agreement means nothing?" "Means everything, but people lie under oath all the time. That's why documentation matters, and yours is airtight. He's rolling the dice." Hoping emotion carries weight. "It won't." "No, but it'll slow things down. This'll likely go to hearing. Might even get dragged into trial if his attorney sees an opening. I'd like to file a motion to dismiss based on the loan paperwork and the notarized terms. But I need your signature and a bit more detail for the filing. Send me what you need." We hung up. I pushed my coffee away and went back to my crossword. The clue stared up at me. Exploiter. 8 letters. I filled in the boxes slowly. Predator. Fitting. That night, I tried calling Effie. Straight to voicemail. I sent a message instead. "Tell the boys I'm bringing night crawlers this Saturday. Let them know I expect a rematch." No reply. No read receipt. Thursday, I was out in the garage organizing the tackle box, again, when my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. "Effie." "Dad," she said, her voice raw. "You need to stop. Please. This lawsuit, he's unraveling." "Effie." "No. Just let me talk. He's up all night pacing. He's talking about filing charges. saying you forged the deed, that you manipulated him. He's calling attorneys and screaming at them when they don't agree. Then maybe he's finally realizing there are consequences. He's saying it's all about revenge, that you're doing this because he kept the boys from you. I stayed quiet. Let the silence speak. She filled it. Is it? She asked. No, but that's what finally woke me up. She exhaled. The boys miss you. Every week they ask if you're still mad. I'm not mad at them. I know, but they're kids. They don't understand court filings or notarized loans. They just know Grandpa's in a fight with Daddy, and Mommy's stuck in the middle. You're not stuck, I said gently. You're standing next to a man who's been using you to fund his next scheme. That house was a promise. He turned it into leverage. I didn't know it would go this far. You knew the day he charged me to see my grandsons. She didn't answer that. Just said, I have to go, and hung up. Saturday morning came. They were waiting again. Backpacks ready, rods in hand. This time, Neil didn't even come to the door. The curtain stayed drawn. Effie waved again. It looked less like an apology this time, more like surrender. At the lake, Micah asked, Is Dad in trouble? Tyler added, Mom said you and Dad are fighting because of grown-up stuff. I cast my line before answering. Your dad and I just see the world differently. But none of that's your fault. Micah looked at me sideways. Mom cries a lot. I nodded. I know, buddy. That's not your fault either. We fished all morning. Tyler caught 2. Micah caught 1, but insisted it was heavier. We made up a scoring system to keep things fair, bonus points for splash height. At lunch, Tyler asked, Are you going to take us fishing forever? I'll take you fishing as long as you want to go, Micah said. Even if Dad says you can't? I've got a piece of paper that says otherwise, I told him, smiling. And your mom signed it too. That earned a small grin. Later, when I dropped them off, Effie pulled me aside at the bottom of the stairs. Her voice was low, tired. He's threatening to sue you for harassment now. Says you're stalking us. That won't stick. I know, but he's angry. Really angry. Let him be. She hesitated. I looked through the mortgage papers, the ones you gave him, and they were all there. Every check, every date, every clause. I kept records. You always did. She didn't say more, just nodded and walked inside. The door clicked shut. Back home, I wrote a letter to David Buchanan, outlining every verbal promise Neil had made about repayment. Dated. Specific. I attached scans of the checks and photos of text messages from back when Neil still thought I was his personal bank. I ended the letter with one sentence. I trusted him because I wanted to believe my daughter had picked a good man. Then I signed it, scanned it, and hit send. The court hearing was scheduled for May 28th. Neil had no idea what was waiting for him. But I did. It was all in the paperwork. May 28th. Hillsborough County Courthouse, Courtroom 3B. I'd never been inside that building before, not for myself. I'd testified a few times back when I was active duty, fire investigations, insurance disputes. But this was different. This time, I was the plaintiff. David Buchanan met me outside security, crisp as ever in a navy suit, tie knotted like a noose. You ready, Mr. Cruz? As I'll ever be. We passed through security. X-ray. Belt off. Pockets emptied. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and waiting. Courtroom 3B was smaller than I expected. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, benches that creaked when you sat down. Neil was already inside, sitting at the defense table with a lawyer I didn't recognize. Mid-50s, cheap suit, thick glasses, already flipping through a binder. Neil didn't look at me. Just sat there with his arms crossed like this was beneath him, like he couldn't believe it had gotten this far. Effie wasn't there. The bailiff called our case. Cruz versus Morrison, residential property dispute. Please come forward. Buchanan stood. David Buchanan for the plaintiff, Your Honor. Mr. Carl Cruz. Neil's lawyer stood too. Robert Keyes for the defense. Mr. Neil Morrison. The judge, a woman in her early 60s, gray hair and a tight bun, nodded. Mr. Buchanan, your opening. David was calm, measured. I'd watched him rehearse it twice in his office the week before. In March 2022, Mr. Cruz paid $68,000 to satisfy the mortgage on the home of his daughter and son-in-law. This transaction was documented as a secured loan. He passed copies to the clerk, who handed one to the judge and another to opposing counsel. With clearly defined terms, notarized signatures, and a priority lien filed with the county. He waited while the judge skimmed the documents. Her eyes narrowed at the notary seal. In the 3 years since that agreement, Buchanan continued, no payments were made. None. Mr. Cruz has attempted resolution informally. Only after being denied access to his grandchildren, after being told explicitly that visitation required additional payment, did he pursue legal recourse. Neil's lawyer objected, but the judge waved him off. Overruled. You'll have your turn. Buchanan rested his hand lightly on the back of my chair. The plaintiff is not acting out of spite. He's acting to recover a legal interest in property he financed. The documentation is clear. The law is clear. He sat. The judge turned to Neil's lawyer. Mr. Keyes? He stood. Flustered already. Your Honor, this was not a loan. It was a gift. A father helping his daughter during a difficult time. Mr. Morrison, he gestured to Neil, who nodded like they were in sync, believed in good faith that Mr. Cruz intended to give the house as an act of generosity, not as a transaction. There were no demands for repayment until recently. No written agreement to that effect? The judge asked, flipping through the loan paperwork. No, Your Honor, but family arrangements often operate outside traditional contracts. Do you have any evidence that contradicts this signed and notarized loan agreement? A pause, the kind that swallows a case whole. No, Your Honor, but we contest the intent. The judge looked at Neil. Mr. Morrison, did you sign these papers? I did, he said. His voice was calmer than I expected. Rehearsed. But I thought they were part of the refinancing paperwork. I didn't know it was a loan from Carl. Did you ask any questions at the time? Neil hesitated. We were overwhelmed. Effie was upset. We were about to lose the house. The judge set down the file. Intent does not override documentation, she said simply. You signed a notarized agreement acknowledging a loan. That document was filed with the county. A lien was established. She looked at Neil. You made no payments. None. In 3 years. She turned back to Buchanan. Motion to dismiss the counterclaim is granted. Mr. Cruz's eviction notice is upheld. Defendants have 30 days to vacate the property. Case closed. The gavel came down. Just like that. Final. Neil stood too fast. The chair screeched. He turned to say something. To me, to the judge, to the air, but his lawyer touched his arm. No, he muttered. We're done. And they left. Outside the courtroom, Buchanan shook my hand. Clean case, he said. Textbook. I nodded. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was tired. The win was real. The law had seen the truth. But the damage it took to get here, that was real too. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone. One message. From Effie. He lost. I know, I'm sorry. The boys don't know yet. I don't know how to tell them. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed back. Tell them I'll see them Saturday, like always. I slid the phone back into my pocket. 30 days. Then the house was mine again. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the start of something else. Something harder, but also cleaner. I walked out of that courthouse and into the Florida sun, steady on my feet, lighter than I'd felt in months. The sheriff's department scheduled the eviction for August 2nd. I didn't ask them to rush it, didn't push. 30 days was the law, and I didn't want to take more than the law gave me. Neil got the notice a week after the court ruling. Effie texted me the moment it arrived. He tore it in half before he finished reading, punched the cabinet. Tyler was in the room. I called her that evening. "You okay?" I asked. She was sitting in her car. I could hear the engine idling. "He's unraveling," she said. "Won't talk to the boys about moving. Won't look for a new place. Just blames you. Says you ambushed us." "You read the papers, Effie. You sat across from the notary." "I know. I know what we signed." I think I told myself it wouldn't come to this. I think you hoped Neil would change." She didn't answer. Didn't need to. I stayed quiet a while. Let the silence stretch. "He's trying to borrow money again," she said finally. "Reached out to one of my cousins. Told him it's just a temporary cash crunch. Same old lines. I'm not defending him anymore, Dad. But I'm scared. Where are we going to go? You and the boys can come here. You know that." "I do. I believe that now. I don't know how to make that decision. Not yet." That was the turning point. Not the court ruling, not the sheriff's notice, that call, the crack in her voice but not in her spine. Effie was waking up. The week before the eviction, I filed one more suit. Debt recovery. Buchanan helped me do it. The total came to $12,000. Interest pushed it toward 15. He served Neil's attorney with the papers the next morning. That same day, I got a text from Effie. He threw the envelope across the room, screamed for 2 straight hours, then went silent. I replied, "You okay?" No answer. Not that night. The next morning, she called. "I want to ask you something," she said. "Not for him. For me." "Go ahead." "Would you be willing to settle?" "The debt, not forgive it. Just let him pay it off slowly. A monthly amount. If I handled it. If I made sure he followed through." I leaned on the counter, stared out the kitchen window at my lawn, mowed the day before. My neighbor across the street was trimming her roses. "You think he'll agree to that?" "He won't have a choice," she said. "He's not the one asking anymore." I told her yes, because it wasn't about the money. Not anymore. It was about who was doing the asking, and why. She called back 3 days later with the number, $400 per month, 30 months, no excuses. I told Buchanan to accept it. When he asked why, I didn't explain, because Effie had asked, and not as a buffer for Neil. She was taking the wheel. That meant something. That meant everything. That Saturday, I took the boys fishing again. Same dock, same box of sandwiches, same ridiculous competition for splash size. Micah caught a big one this time. Not record-breaking, but enough to make Tyler jealous. "I let you have it," Tyler said, arms crossed. "You did not." I distracted the fish with my mind. "Oh yeah? Distracted it with what?" I was sending fish brainwaves. "Grandpa, tell him." I shrugged. Not my place to get between 2 highly trained fish whisperers. They both laughed. Hard. The kind of laugh that ends in hiccups. I sat back on the dock and watched them. The sun hit the water in strips. Wind pulled at the reeds. I could hear a boat motor in the distance. They were mine again. Not by force, not by court order, but because I hadn't gone away. Because when the money was gone and the lies collapsed and Neil had nothing left to stand on, I was still there. Rod in hand, cooler packed, back seat open. When I dropped them off, Effie met me at the curb. She didn't wave this time. She came to my window. "He's out job hunting," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "He's looking at delivery gigs, food apps, local courier stuff, anything." "How's he taking the reality check?" She looked down. "He's bitter, but he's quiet." First time in a long time. Quiet can be a start. "I'm thinking of taking the boys to Mom's for a week in September," she said. "Just me and them." "Good." I might not come back. I didn't say anything, just nodded. I don't want them growing up thinking this is normal. That control looks like love. That money means access. They won't, I said. Not with you seeing it now. She touched my hand briefly. Then she turned, walked up the steps and disappeared inside. The door didn't slam. The silence behind her said enough. 2 more Saturdays passed, each one easier than the last. The boys started packing their own bags, remembering their sunscreen, making their own peanut butter sandwiches. They were adjusting. So was I. August 2nd, the eviction date, came quietly. I didn't go. Didn't need to. Buchanan called me that afternoon. It's done. Property transferred. Keys will be mailed. They moved into a small apartment in Seminole Heights. How did Neil take it? He didn't speak. Just watched. That night I sat at the kitchen table, house silent, lights low, and stared at the calendar. There were 2 red circles now, one around August 2nd, the other around every Saturday for the rest of the year. I picked up my pen, drew another circle, then another, then another. Because some victories aren't explosions, they're rituals, repetition, presence, a grandfather with a tackle box, and 2 boys who trust he'll always show up. The apartment in Seminole Heights was smaller than anything they'd ever lived in. 1 bathroom, no yard. The kind of place you rent when you're out of choices, not when you're building a future. Effie called it temporary, but the word sat uneasy in her mouth, like she knew Neil wouldn't be the one finding the next step. I told the boys it's an adventure, she said over the phone. Micah didn't buy it. Tyler's just excited to be on the 3rd floor. Stairs build character, I said, and leg strength. She laughed a little, tired, but real. Neil's doing delivery now, she added. Packages, groceries. He leaves early, gets back late, keeps to himself. That's not nothing. It's close. The debt repayment started quietly. A check showed up in my mailbox, postmarked the 31st. $400. No note, just the check, signed with a pen that looked like it had been gripped too tight. I deposited it without comment. I wasn't interested in gloating. I was interested in follow-through. The following Saturday, I brought the boys out to Clearwater instead of Lake Tarpon. Different water, salty air, bigger fish, the kind that fight back harder. Micah was all business, trying to cast against the tide like a pro. Tyler got his line tangled on the dock railing 5 times in the first half hour. Grandpa, it's not me. The wind is rigged. Nature is conspiring against you? Yes, I believe it. At one point, Tyler handed me his rod and just sat beside me on the bench, chin in his palm. What's wrong? I asked. He kicked his feet. At the new place, there's no room for my Legos. They're in a box in the closet. You'll get 'em back out, but they're not where they used to be. Nothing is. I looked out over the water. You know how fish can live in salt water or fresh water, but not both? Yeah? Sometimes people are like that. Some people can only live in the same place, same water. Others, they learn how to adjust. He thought about that. Which kind am I? You'll be whatever kind you want. But either way, I'll be here. He leaned against me then, small shoulder pressing into my arm, warm and steady. Micah was still fussing with his line on the other side of the dock. I think I snagged seaweed, or a monster, one of the two. Reel it in and prepare to wrestle, I called out. The wind picked up. We stayed until the sky turned orange. On the way home, both boys fell asleep in the truck again. Tyler's head on Micah's shoulder, Micah's mouth open, softly snoring. I parked outside the apartment, engine idling. Effie came out in sweats and a t-shirt, hair pulled back. She looked 10 years younger than she had a month ago, or maybe just lighter. They okay? She asked, opening the back door gently. Out cold. She paused. Can I ask you something? Always. Was I wrong to stay with him that long? I looked at her. No. You were trying to build something stable. You wanted to believe in him. There's no shame in that. She nodded, looked down at the sidewalk. But staying, I added. After the truth sets in, that's when it becomes a choice. I see that now. I know you do. She closed the truck doors softly after buckling them both in. They're sleeping better now, less tension. It's like they can breathe again. Kids feel everything, Effie, even what we try to hide. Her voice dropped. He still says I betrayed him. He betrayed himself. He says you turned me against him. I didn't have to. She smiled then, just a little. Yeah, I guess not. The next Saturday, Neil wasn't home when I picked the boys up. Effie said he'd picked up an overnight route. Delivery work didn't leave much room for ego. The following Monday, the second payment arrived. Another $400 check. Same signature. No note. This time the handwriting looked shakier, or maybe just smaller. At this rate, it'd take over 2 years to repay what he owed. But it didn't matter. It was the act of repayment that counted now. The days began to blend into routine again. Tackle box cleaned every Friday night. Sandwiches packed Saturday morning. 2 boys at the curb, ready and waiting. We fished. We talked. We drove back tired and sunbrowned. Then I went home to my own quiet. That was the rhythm. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. One evening, Effie called me just to talk. No reason, no crisis. Just wanted to hear my voice. She told me Micah had drawn a picture of our fishing dock for a school project. Said the caption read, "This is where I feel calm." I didn't say anything for a long time. Because that was it, wasn't it? That was the win. All of it. Every filing, every legal fee, every hard conversation and closed door, it was all for that. A place they could feel calm. Not afraid, not small, just safe. And I'd built it, one Saturday at a time. There's something about routine that softens grief. By mid-September, the boys treated our Saturdays like law. They didn't ask if we were going fishing. They asked where. They had preferences now. Tyler liked the docks because he could lie flat and peer into the water. Micah preferred the bank at McGinty Park. Better angles, he claimed. Fewer tangles. I let them choose. Effie told me Neil hadn't made eye contact with her in days. She said it like she didn't expect me to care. But I did, just not in the way she meant. "I think he's embarrassed," she said once, while the boys were inside grabbing snacks before our trip. "Could be," I replied. "Or maybe just angry. I can't tell anymore." I didn't say what I wanted to, that anger is what's left when shame doesn't know where to go, that some men hide behind it like armor. Instead, I told her, "If you ever decide you've had enough, you don't have to explain it to anyone, not even me." She nodded. "I think I'm getting there." That afternoon, Micah caught a catfish and named it Harold. Tyler insisted we set it free because Harold probably has fish children. We let it go. Both boys waved goodbye as it vanished into the murk. At the truck later, while I was packing up the rods, Micah stood next to me, quiet. "Grandpa," he said, "is Dad mad at us?" The words caught me sideways. "What makes you think that?" "He doesn't talk much anymore, doesn't ask about school, doesn't ask if we caught anything. He's dealing with a lot," I said, choosing my words carefully. "But that's not your fault. Is it yours?" That one hit harder. I looked at him, 10 years old, already trying to balance adult consequences on kid shoulders. "No, buddy, it's not. It's something between your dad and me, but none of it has anything to do with how much I love you." He nodded, eyes still on the tackle box. "I just want things to go back to normal." I didn't say it, but I thought it. This is normal now. Or at least, it's ours. The third debt check arrived on time, neatly signed. Postmarked 2 days before the due date. Effie had told me she was mailing them now, not Neil. "He doesn't argue when I say I'm handling it. she'd said. It's like he's given up trying. I asked her if that scared her or relieved her. Both, she answered, but mostly relieved. October brought cooler mornings, jackets and thermoses instead of sunscreen and Gatorade. The fish bit slower, but we didn't mind. The boys had taken to bringing notebooks with them, drawing, journaling, whatever came to mind while they waited on a bite. Tyler drew the fish he wanted to catch, creatures with cartoon eyes and teeth. Micah made lists, lures that worked, casting tips, fish facts. One day, Micah handed me a folded sheet of paper from his journal. It read, "Top 5 things I like about Saturdays. Grandpa always brings snacks. We get to pick where we fish. No one yells. Tyler doesn't lie about how big his fish is, much. It feels like when Mom used to smile all the time." I kept that paper in my wallet. I still have it now. Later that week, Effie sent me a message late at night. "He's drinking more. Not dangerous. Not violent. Just gone. I don't think he's coming back from this." "You mean emotionally?" I wrote back. "I mean all of it." A day later, she called. The boys were at school. "I've looked at places," she said. "Places? For me and the boys. Something small. 2 bedrooms. I don't want to keep making them live under that heaviness." "You don't need my permission, Effie." "I know. But I think I needed your strength. Just until I could find my own." I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to sit with those words. Then I said, "If you need help with a deposit, I can—" "No," she cut in. "You've done enough. I've got this part." We were both quiet for a while. "Tell me when you're ready," I said. "The boys can stay with me during the move." "I will." That Saturday, we fished under a gray sky that threatened rain. The bite was slow, but the laughter came easy. Tyler fell in trying to net Micah's fish and spent the rest of the trip wrapped in my hoodie, soaked and proud. Micah caught 2 and claimed victory. "Even if I fell in, I'd still win," Tyler said. "No, you'd just be cold and wet and a loser," Micah replied, grinning. "Boys," I warned, "losers don't get hot chocolate." "Sorry, Grandpa," they said in unison, perfect mimicry of apology with none of the intent. When I dropped them off, Effie was waiting again. Same tired hoodie, same soft eyes. "November," she said. "That's when we move." I nodded. "Do the boys know yet?" "Not yet. I want to show them the new place first. Let them feel like it's a step forward, not just a break." "And Neil?" "He doesn't ask where I go anymore. I think he knows. And he's too tired to fight." We stood there for a minute. 2 tired parents, separated by years and scars and silence, but united by something heavier, something earned. "I'm proud of you," I said. She nodded. "I'm starting to feel like me again." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood in that parking lot like the storm had passed, and we were finally looking at the same sky again. And for the first time in years, it felt clear. The first time I saw the new place, it was empty. Effie had asked me to come by before the boys saw it. "I need a second pair of eyes," she'd said, which I understood to mean someone steady in the room. It was a small unit, tucked behind a row of townhomes off 16th Street. Clean siding, a little porch out front. The kind of quiet corner you might overlook unless you were looking for peace on purpose. Inside, the living room was small but bright. 2 bedrooms, new carpet. The kitchen was older, but the stove worked and the cabinets didn't creak. There was a window above the sink that looked out toward a patch of lawn, a good place for 2 kids to invent anything. "I know it's not big," she said, fiddling with her sleeve. "It doesn't need to be big," I said. "It needs to be safe and quiet." She nodded. "They'll share a room again, bunk beds. Tyler's already asking for a fish tank." "You can make that work." "I think I already am." We stood in the living room for a while. just letting the walls settle around us. "I didn't want to need this," she said quietly. "A reset. I wanted the life I had to be enough." "It's not weakness, Effie," I said. "It's clarity." She looked at me, eyes tired but clearer than I'd seen in years. "Do you think they'll understand?" "They already do," I said. "More than you think." The boys saw it a few days later. Effie picked them up after school and brought them straight over before any furniture had been moved in. She called me afterward. "They loved it," she said. "Micah said it smells better than our apartment. Tyler picked the top bunk before we even had the beds delivered." I smiled. "Fish tank?" "Already measuring the windowsill." That weekend, we didn't go fishing. We moved boxes. Micah insisted on carrying the heaviest ones. Tyler unpacked 3 boxes of books and arranged them on the floor in crooked rows. Effie made peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and we ate them sitting on an old quilt in the middle of the living room. No yelling, no tension, just the sound of boxes being opened and a home being built, one slow, loving step at a time. Neil wasn't there. Effie said he hadn't asked for the address. I didn't ask why. Later, when the sun was setting and the boys were upstairs arguing about who got which drawer, Effie handed me an envelope. "I opened a separate account," she said. "The debt payments. I'll deposit into it each month and send you a check. That way I'm the one doing it, not him." I looked at the envelope, then at her. "You don't have to carry this alone." "I'm not," she said. "I'm just not handing it off anymore." I slid the envelope into my jacket pocket. We didn't say anything else for a long time. Just listened to the boys upstairs. Bickering, laughing, rearranging furniture they barely understood how to lift. The next morning I went back to the house. My house. The one Neil had stood in for 3 years like it was his. Like he'd built it. Like he'd earned it. It was empty now. Buchanan had the locks changed. The front door opened smoother than I remembered. I walked through each room slowly. Living room, kitchen, hallway, the bedroom that used to hold Tyler's crib, the one where Micah had scrawled his name on the closet wall when he was 5. I left it there, didn't paint over it, didn't patch it. That was mine now, all of it. I stood in the middle of the living room, sun coming through the back window, and breathed it in. Not victory, just air. Steady and full. I didn't feel the urge to redesign it or rent it out or even live in it again. That wasn't the point. The point was this. It no longer held their weight. It no longer held his. A week later, Effie called. "He wants to see the boys." I waited. I told him yes. For now. Supervised. Short visits. "That's your call," I said. "I know. But I wanted you to know I'm not doing it out of guilt. That's why I'm not arguing." "He still blames you," she added. "Says you poisoned everything. That's his right. But the boys don't listen to him anymore. They watch what he does. And what you do." "That's how we all learn," I said. "Eventually." Later that night, I cleaned out the tackle box again. Replaced a few worn lures. Oiled the reels. Sorted the sinkers. There was peace in the ritual. Something I could touch and mend. Tyler had started drawing the fish he wanted to catch. A rainbow trout, a shark, even a swordfish with a cape. Micah had started helping me tie knots again, just to check my work. They were growing up in the middle of all this, right through it, and somehow they were becoming softer, not harder, not bitter. That was all I needed to know. Effie was building something real, and I was part of it. Not because I demanded to be or paid my way in, but because I'd shown up and never left. Halloween came early that year, or maybe it just felt that way. The first week of October, Tyler started planning his costume, Fish Ninja, a concept no one could quite understand, but which involved face paint, flippers, and a cardboard sword. Micah chose something simpler, a pirate, mostly for the hat. Effie texted me a photo of them trying on outfits in the living room, grinning like it was their job. First time they've picked costumes without a fight. I stared at that picture for a long time. Tyler's knee was scraped. Micah had a smudge of chocolate on his lip. Both looked messy, alive, happy. I saved it to my phone. That same week, the 4th debt check arrived. On time again. Effie's handwriting on the envelope. I deposited it and didn't mention it to her. No point. We were past that now. But something else had shifted. Neil called me. The number showed up as unknown, but I knew the rhythm of his silence on the line, the way he breathed before speaking, like each word cost him more than he could afford. "I want to talk," he said. I didn't respond right away. "Not about money," he added quickly. "About the boys." I let the silence stretch. "Go on," I said finally. "I don't want to lose them completely." "You already have," I said, steady. "What you do from here is about how much you want to earn back." Another silence. "I'm not good at this," he said. "No," I said. "You're not. I wasn't raised with people who stayed. And I wasn't raised to accept excuses." He laughed once, bitter. "Effie told me you forgave her, that you're helping her. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She earned it. So did I put the wrong name on the checks?" That stung. Not the words, but the tone. Still slick with deflection, still unwilling to lay anything down. "I didn't take your house," I said. "I took back mine. You lost your footing because you built your life on borrowed ground. So that's it. That's the cleanest answer I have." He hung up without another word. I didn't tell Effie about the call. Didn't need to. But that Saturday, when I picked the boys up, she looked at me longer than usual. Studied my face like she was trying to see if something had cracked. "You okay?" she asked, passing over their backpacks. "I am," I said. "He called." Her eyes flicked toward the apartment window. "Did he threaten anything?" "No. He flailed. There's a difference." The boys barreled down the steps before we could say more. "Grandpa, guess what?" Tyler shouted. "I saw a fish in the parking lot puddle. It looked at me." "Fish don't live in puddles, goof," Micah said, rolling his eyes. "Then it was a fish ghost." Micah turned to me. "He's been saying weird stuff all week." "I encourage that," I said. "Weird makes good bait." At the lake, they fished for 20 minutes, then spent the next hour building a fish trap out of sticks and leaves. I told them it wouldn't work. They said I lacked imagination. On the drive back, Tyler dozed off again. Micah stayed awake, watching the trees pass through the window. "Do you think Dad's mad at us?" he asked suddenly. "No," I said. "I think your dad's mad at himself, but he doesn't know how to say that yet." Micah nodded. "Mom says we don't have to be scared anymore." She's right. Even if he moves out? Especially if he does. He didn't respond right away. Just traced his finger on the window fog. "He was really nice when we were little," he said finally. Then something changed. I looked at him in the mirror. His face was older than it should have been, not wrinkled, not worn, but heavy, the way kids get when they've held too much adult weight too soon. "You know what matters?" I asked. He looked up. "You didn't change. You stayed kind." He smiled at that. Small. Real. When we pulled into the apartment, Effie was waiting with grocery bags on the porch. She waved and called out, "Dinner's almost ready. Go wash up." Tyler, half asleep, perked up. "Is it spaghetti night?" "It is if you're fast," she said. Micah leapt out of the truck. "Last one inside has to do dishes." Tyler scrambled to catch up. "No fair, you got a head start." Effie watched them run in, then walked over to me. "You told them the truth, didn't you?" "I didn't lie." "Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "He's been sleeping on the couch. Doesn't say much. Doesn't ask. You think he knows what's coming?" "He does," she said, "and I think for the first time, he's not going to fight it." "Then he might still have a chance," I said, "but it's not going to come from me." She nodded. He knows. Then she turned, walked inside, and shut the door softly behind her. I sat in the truck for a while after that, listening to the last few crickets chirping, the distant hum of someone's television leaking through their window. The wind picked up. The air smelled like water. I thought of that photo. Tyler in flippers, Micah in a pirate hat, both standing in a half-empty room that still managed to feel like home. They were building something, piece by piece, word by word, and I would keep showing up until the structure held. The last Sunday in October, Effie called just after sunrise. Her voice was quiet but clear. He left. I sat up straighter. What happened? He packed 2 bags last night, said he didn't want to hold us hostage anymore, said he knew it was over, and then he walked out. Where did he go? No idea. Didn't ask. He didn't even ask about the boys. She paused, and I heard a cabinet open, the clink of a mug. I didn't cry, she added. I thought I would, but I just stood there and watched. I let that hang in the air a moment before asking, how are the boys? Micah hasn't said much. Tyler asked if we could still trick or treat. That's how he's measuring reality right now. I smiled. Reasonable metric. Effie sighed. It's weird, Dad. The house feels lighter. Because it is. I offered to take the boys the next day, just for a few hours. Let her have some time. She said yes, then added something she hadn't said since they were toddlers. Thank you for being steady. Those words settled in my chest, like a warm stone. Monday afternoon, I picked them up after school. They were quiet at first, bags over shoulders, looking smaller than usual. Mom says he's not coming back, Micah said once we were in the truck. Yeah, I said gently. She told me. He didn't even say bye, Tyler mumbled, staring out the window. I know. We drove to a little park near Bayshore, one we hadn't been to in years, not to fish, just to walk, let the air in. The boys kicked leaves, picked up sticks, threw acorns at imaginary monsters. We sat on a bench near the water. Tyler climbed into my lap without asking. Micah leaned his head on my shoulder. We sat there a long time, just watching the water ripple against the seawall. I don't hate him, Micah said quietly. You don't have to. But I don't miss him either. That's okay too. Tyler looked up at me. Are we still a family? I wrapped my arm around him. We always were, I said, even when it didn't feel like it. He leaned into me. Later, at home, Effie met us at the door. She looked different, not happy, not sad, just whole, like she'd made it through some tunnel that none of us could see, but she'd been crawling through for years. They okay? She asked. They're fine, I said. They're anchored. She touched my shoulder. So am I. Halloween came that weekend. The boys wore their ridiculous costumes, fish ninja and a pirate. Effie went as a tired mom, which Tyler declared not a real costume, but she wore it proudly. I walked with them, door to door, bucket in hand, taking pictures, holding jackets, laughing when Tyler tried to trick one house into giving him double candy by pretending to be someone else's kid. No way, Micah had said, pulling him back by the hood. That's Grandpa's hoodie. They'll know. After we got back, we sat on their porch and sorted candy under the porch light. Effie came out with hot cider in mismatched mugs. The boys tore open wrappers and traded favorites. Micah liked peanut butter cups. Tyler hoarded sour gummies like gold. I watched them, sipping cider, wrapped in a blanket that had seen better days. Effie sat next to me. He left a note, she said quietly, on the kitchen counter. What did it say? Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I nodded. Maybe that's true. Maybe, but that's between him and himself now. We watched the boys. Micah was counting candy with a pen and a pad of paper like it was a science project. Tyler was lining his pieces up by color. Do you think they'll remember this? She asked. I didn't have to think. Yes, I said, because this is the year everything changed, and they'll remember who was there when it did. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You were right, she said. About what? About waiting. About showing up. About not giving up on me. I never thought you were lost. She didn't answer. Just let that settle. A wind came through, cool and clean, and somewhere down the street, a wind chime rattled like applause. Later that night, back at my place, I pulled out the small wooden box I kept in my closet. Old letters. A photo of Maria. A lock of Effie's baby hair, wrapped in wax paper. A Father's Day card Micah had made when he was 5. I added something new. Tyler's drawing of Fish Ninja, folded carefully, signed in the corner. To Grandpa, from your weirdest ninja. It went in the box like the others. A small, quiet proof that the house was never the point. The love was. And it had followed us, even after everything else fell away. November settled over Florida like a long exhale. Cooler mornings, earlier sunsets, the kind of gray sky that made you want to stay home, stir soup, and fold warm laundry straight from the dryer. The boys adjusted faster than I expected. Tyler hung paper snowflakes in their bedroom window by the first week. Micah took it upon himself to set quiet hours for the bunk beds, lights off by 9:30, no fart jokes after 9. Effie said they started sleeping better. They're not afraid anymore, she told me one night on the phone. They don't flinch when the front door opens. I listened to her talk while I stood barefoot in my kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand. It felt like spring inside my chest, even though the calendar said otherwise. The 5th check came on time. No fanfare. Just another envelope in the box. Effie enclosed a note this time, a single line. Some debts are money, some are time. This pays toward both. I didn't call her about it. I just folded it and slid it next to the others. The stack was growing. That Saturday we skipped fishing. The boys had begged to go to the flea market instead. We need to get Christmas gifts, Micah said, very serious. Budget, $10 each. Tyler added, I want to buy something weird for Grandpa, like a sword, or a mug that yells. I said, I already own both. They didn't believe me. We wandered the aisles, the smells of popcorn and boiled peanuts hanging in the air. Tyler tried on every hat at a vendor stall. Micah bartered for a broken compass and got the guy to throw in a rubber snake. I found a booth run by a woman who made wood carvings, small fish mostly. Hand-carved, painted, varnished smooth. I bought 2. Later I'd write their names on the bottom with a fine point pen. Micah's first trout. Tyler's mudfish miracle. Keepsakes. Tangible stories. Something to hold on the bad days. That night after I dropped them off, Effie walked me out to the truck. They're happier, she said. Not just adjusting. Actually happy. You've made a home, I said. That's everything. She looked toward the apartment door. He called me. Said he wants to see them for Thanksgiving. I waited. I told him maybe, if he writes them a letter first. No phone call, no sudden show-ups, just words. Something they can keep or toss. Their choice. That was wise. She nodded. He said I was being cruel. I raised an eyebrow. He always says that when I set a boundary, because he knows it's the end of his control. She looked back at me. I'm not scared of him anymore. That feels weird to say. It feels earned. We stood there a while longer, neither of us in a rush. The street was quiet. A dog barked 2 blocks over. Somewhere a wind chime swung lazy in the breeze. Do you want to come for Thanksgiving? She asked suddenly. I looked at her. You sure? I'm hosting, she said, like it still surprised her. It'll be small, just us. The boys want to make stuffing from scratch. I warned them. Dangerous optimism, I said. She smiled. I told them you'd bring pie. I'll bring 2. When I got home, I started making a list. Sweet potato, pecan, apple. Then I added, Old photos, extra folding chairs, Tyler's favorite whipped cream. I wasn't just showing up now. I was being invited. And that meant something deeper than winning a court case or reclaiming a deed. It meant I'd become necessary again. Thanksgiving came fast. Effie made the turkey. Micah made mashed potatoes that were mostly butter. Tyler helped with cranberry sauce, but accidentally stained the whole counter red. They thought it was hilarious. I brought the pies and the chairs, and a framed photo of me and the boys at the dock last summer. Effie set it on the shelf above the couch without a word. Neil didn't come. No letter arrived. The boys didn't ask why. I think they already understood that absence can be its own answer. After dinner, while Effie cleaned up and the boys lay on the floor in a mashed potato stupor, I stepped outside for air. The porch was cool, a little damp, the kind of Florida night that feels like winter pretending to matter. Effie joined me after a while, wiping her hands on a towel. "This was good," she said. "Better than I thought it'd be." "You made it that way." "I think we all did." She reached into her back pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "He sent this," she said. "Yesterday. I haven't given it to them." She handed it to me. I unfolded it. 2 lines, handwritten. "Boys. I'm sorry I wasn't the man I should have been. I hope someday you'll forgive me." I folded it back up. "I'm glad he wrote it," I said. "Should I show them?" "Maybe." "When they're older, when they ask." She nodded. "Yeah, not today." We went back inside. Tyler had fallen asleep on the floor, hand in the candy dish. Micah was drawing a turkey with a fishtail. Effie caught me looking and smiled. "They're weird," she said. "They're perfect." I stood in that room warm and full and understood something new. We weren't just healing. We were whole. Not like before. Not a reset of the broken thing. Something new. Built better. Built to last. The final debt payment arrived 2 days before Christmas. Check number 30. Signed, sealed, delivered. Same neat envelope, same small handwriting. This time there was no note inside, just the check. I held it for a while before depositing it. Not out of sentimentality, just quiet finality. Something that had hung in the air for 3 years had landed. Effie called that afternoon. "That was the last one," she said. "I know." He hasn't called since Thanksgiving. Not even for the holidays. I didn't ask if she missed him. She didn't offer it. Instead, she said, "Tyler asked if we could make fish-shaped cookies this year. Seems fitting. He said you'd have a cookie cutter shaped like a base." "I do." "I told him you were magic." I laughed. He's not wrong. We made the cookies the next day, Effie, me, and the boys in her small kitchen. Flour in the air, sugar on the floor. Tyler dumped an entire bottle of blue sprinkles onto one, declaring it ocean camouflage. Micah used red icing to make his look angry. "These are attack fish," he explained. "Guardians of the cookie tin." Afterward, we sat around the tiny table with hot cocoa and cooling pans. Effie lit a candle in the middle. One of those little store-bought ones that smells like cinnamon and pine needles. Micah said, "Can we do this every year?" Tyler added, "Forever?" I said, "I already put it on the calendar." Christmas Eve. I took them out one last time before the holiday. We didn't fish. It was too cold and too windy. But we walked along the edge of Lake Tarpon anyway. The water looked hard, almost still. Not frozen, just bracing. Micah picked up stones and skipped them across the surface. Tyler tried, but his always plopped. "Not fair," he said, crossing his arms. "It's technique, not luck," Micah said, handing him a smoother one. Tyler tried again. Plop. "Still not fair." They laughed. And I watched them, 2 boys reshaped by quiet, steady love. Not perfect. Not untouched by the storm, but rooted now. Stronger than they had been, and free. On the walk back, Tyler asked if I believed in Santa. "I believe in surprises," I said, "and things showing up when you need them most." "Like you?" he asked. I didn't answer, just took his hand. Micah reached for the other. We walked like that for a while, the wind at our backs. That night, Effie texted me a photo. The boys in their pajamas, holding their fish cookies, standing in front of a tree that was too big for their small living room, but perfect anyway. Beneath the image, she'd written, "Thank you for not giving up on me, or them." I typed a reply, then erased it, then just wrote, "Never even crossed my mind." Christmas morning, I dropped by with their gifts. Nothing extravagant. A new tackle box for Micah, a compass for Tyler, matching hats that read Team Grandpa in crooked white lettering. They wore them all day. Effie gave me a framed photo of the three of us from the fishing dock last month. Behind it, a folded note. Later that night, when I was alone, I opened it. It said, "You didn't save us. You taught us how to save ourselves." But I'll never forget who kept showing up when it counted. Underneath, in Tyler's handwriting, "Best Grandpa, forever." I set the frame on the mantel. The house, the one I'd fought for, the one I now owned outright, stayed empty. I never rented it, never moved back in. It just sat there, silent and whole, like the closing cover on a long book. I went by once in January, walked through the rooms, felt the walls, touched the light switches. Dust had started to gather. The air smelled of paint and quiet. I locked the door when I left, not out of grief, but because I didn't need to go back anymore. The future was happening elsewhere. One Saturday in late January, Micah brought me a folded piece of paper on the dock. "What's this?" I asked. He shrugged. "A story. I'm writing about last year, for school." I unfolded it. The title read, "The Year Everything Changed." The first line, "Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who wait instead of shout." I looked at him, his face steady, his eyes full. "Can I keep this?" I asked. "Nope," he said. "It's not done yet." Fair enough. We fished until sundown. Then we packed up and headed home. The long war was over. The damage was real, and so was the healing. But the real story wasn't about the house, or the court, or even the debt. It was about staying, not fighting to win, but to remain. To be the voice that says, "I'm here," when everyone else is too loud or too late or already gone. That's what I was for them. That's what they made me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. February brought rain, not the kind that makes a scene, just the slow, steady kind that taps at the windows and washes everything quietly. That's what those days felt like. Clean. Unremarkable in the best possible way. The boys were back in school. Micah had started a science project involving fish habitats. Tyler was trying to convince his teacher that Fish Ninja counted as a historical figure. Effie called me one morning just to say she'd gotten a raise. "Nothing huge," she said. "Just a little bump for staying past the 6-month mark." I told her I was proud. She paused a moment, then added, "I think I might go back to school part-time, just a course or two, see if I still have a brain." "You never lost it," I said. "You just spent too long letting someone else use it." That made her laugh, tired and honest. "You always know exactly where to put the knife." Only because I remember how it felt. She was quiet after that. Sometimes people don't need comfort. They just need a witness. I was good at that now. That weekend, the boys came over for a sleepover. We watched Jaws on the living room floor with a bowl of popcorn the size of a laundry basket. Tyler asked every 5 minutes if the shark was going to eat the boat. Micah took notes like he was preparing a defense for the shark in court. After they'd crashed out, Tyler in the guest bed, Micah on the couch, I stood in the kitchen washing dishes, listening to the quiet rhythm of 2 boys sleeping under my roof. I hadn't had that feeling in years. Not just contentment, something older. Something I'd lost track of when Effie married Neil and the house got too quiet. It was belonging. I dried my hands and pulled out a box I'd been meaning to give Micah. Inside, my old fishing log, Notes from the years I spent cataloging bait combinations and water temps, strike patterns and storm timing. It was a mess of ink and shorthand and yellowed pages, but it was a history. I left it on the arm of the couch with a note, "For you. Add to it." The next morning he saw it before breakfast. "You kept all this?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "Every cast that mattered." He looked up at me, serious. "I will too." That was the moment I knew. The cycle had turned. Not repeated, evolved. I'd passed something forward, not just memory or habit, but purpose. That Sunday, Effie picked them up in the late afternoon. She brought coffee and lingered longer than usual on the porch. "I think I want to talk to a lawyer," she said. "About divorce." I didn't move, just waited. "He hasn't called again. He's not paying anything, and the boys don't ask for him anymore." "What's stopping you?" "I'm not afraid of him," she said, "but I'm afraid of letting go of the idea that I could fix it." I nodded. "That's not love, that's duty dressed up in hope." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm done confusing the two," she said. I stepped back and held the screen door open. She walked through without another word, just a light squeeze on my arm as she passed. The boys waved from the car. I waved back. That night, I found Micah's science project outline on the dining table. It had fallen from his folder. The title read, "How Environments Change Fish, and How Fish Survive Anyway." Underneath, a subtitle in smaller handwriting, "Dedicated to my grandpa, who kept the water clean." I sat down right there and cried. Not out of sadness, out of completion. Because that was the long arc of it, wasn't it? We survive, we adapt, we shed what poisons us, and we grow something better in its place. Effie had reclaimed her life. The boys had found their steadiness. And I had done the one thing I never thought I'd have to fight for. Stay. March brought warmth. Not the heavy heat of Florida summer, but something gentler, brighter. The kind that makes you open windows and forget to close them again. The boys were with me every Saturday still, but it wasn't always fishing now. Sometimes we went for bike rides. Sometimes we walked the preserve trails and counted turtles. Once we spent the entire afternoon building a paperboat fleet and watching them sink one by one in the drainage canal behind the library. "They weren't seaworthy," Micah said, arms crossed like a shipbuilder disappointed in his crew. "They were saboteured," Tyler insisted, "by the puddle pirates." I didn't correct him. Let them build their world strange and beautiful. Effie called one night near the end of the month. "I filed the paperwork," she said. "You okay?" I'm calm, a little hollow, but not scared. I think the sadness is old, like it's been waiting for permission to leave. "You gave it permission," I said. "That's enough." "He hasn't responded yet. He might not. He'll probably disappear again." "Does that bother you?" She was quiet a moment. Then, "No." "Because he already disappeared a long time ago." I didn't press. There was no victory in it, just a kind of soft landing. She added, "The boys know. I told them it's just making something official that's already true." "How'd they take it?" "They asked if they could still come fishing. I told them they'd get to pick your nursing home when you're old." "Fair trade." She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that had breath in it again. The next Saturday we went back to Lake Tarpon. Same dock, same tackle box, same cooler. It felt like a full circle, like we were checking in with the beginning. Tyler caught a tiny sunfish and insisted it was the prince of the pond. He released it with a bow. Micah leaned against the railing beside me, quiet for a while. Then he said, "Do you think it's okay to not want to see him again?" I didn't rush. "I think it's okay to protect yourself and to take your time." He nodded. "Mom says he's still my dad, even if he wasn't good at it." She's right. But being a father is different than being a dad. You get to decide what part of him you carry. What if I don't want to carry any? I looked at him. This boy who had learned boundaries before braces. Then you set it down. That's what growing up is. He didn't cry, didn't fidget, just said, "Okay." Tyler came running over, both hands full of weeds. I made Grandpa a salad. Micah rolled his eyes. It's pond grass. Organic pond grass. I accepted it like a Michelin star dish. Can't wait to taste algae vinaigrette. We stayed out until the sun dipped low. That night back at home, I took out the old ledger, Neil's fake investment plan, the first page of the scam. I hadn't looked at it in over a year. I read through it once, then slowly tore it in half. Then again. Then again. Not out of rage, just release. The past wasn't a chain anymore. It was just paper. I didn't burn it, didn't bury it. Just let it go, page by page, into the bin. The next morning, Effie called. Her voice was different again, lighter, even more so than before. "He signed the papers," she said. "No fight? No threats? No calls? Just a name on the dotted line." I leaned against the counter. "You did it," I said. "No," she replied. "We did." I didn't argue, because she was right. Later that week, she dropped off the boys for spring break. 4 days of sleepovers, snacks, movies, and fishing. As she handed me their bags, she hugged me. No hesitation this time. No awkward half-pats. A real full hug. "Thank you," she said into my shoulder. "For every Saturday. For not letting me disappear." "I just stood still," I said. "You came back." As she drove away, Tyler waved from the window, his hair sticking up like a bird nest. Micah gave me a thumbs up. 4 days of grandpa time. Prepare yourself. I was born ready. I watched them go, heart full in a way I never expected this late in life. No revenge, no screaming justice. Just this. Truth, held long enough, becomes shelter, and I had built a home from it. Spring didn't knock. It walked right in. By April, the trees were leaf-heavy and loud with birds again. Micah's science project got second place at the district fair. Tyler broke his finger climbing a fence he absolutely swore he'd been told not to climb. He landed like a superhero, Effie said, then immediately screamed like a squirrel. I took them both out that weekend. Tyler fished one-handed. Micah baited both rods. They didn't fight once. We'd come a long way from bribing them with snacks just to stand still. Effie had started night classes. One course to start, developmental psych, said it helped her understand the boys better. But I knew it was also about understanding herself. One evening, she stopped by my place after picking them up. No reason. Just walked through the front door like she used to, brought groceries, tossed her keys on the counter. "I remember when this place felt like his," she said, glancing around the kitchen. "It never was," I said. "I know that now." We sat at the table, coffee between us. Boys upstairs playing some noisy game that involved dinosaurs and possibly lightsabers. She looked tired, but not the kind of tired you escape from, the kind you earn. "I got a call last week," she said. "From him." I didn't flinch. He asked if I'd consider letting him visit the boys this summer. Said he's getting his life together. I waited. I told him he'd need to come through you first. That surprised me. "Why me?" "Because you know what they need, and you never flinch." I thought about it, about what kind of man Neil might be now, what kind of man he never was. "He'll say all the right things," I said, "until he has to live them." "I know," she said. "You still want him to try?" She sipped her coffee. "I want to be able to say I didn't shut the door before he knocked." Fair. I didn't offer to call him. I didn't say I'd manage it. We both knew what kind of man he'd always been, but we also knew that people surprise you. Not often. But sometimes. And what mattered wasn't what he wanted. It was what the boys needed. Tyler came barreling down the stairs, one hand in a sock, the other holding a half-eaten granola bar. "I accidentally elbowed Micah in the eye," he announced. "But I think he's fine." Micah followed, rubbing his face. It was the wounded hand, so it doesn't count. Effie just laughed. They're going to be okay, aren't they? They already are. The next weekend, Micah gave me a notebook. I finished your fishing log, he said. Sort of. I added new stuff. I opened it, every page full. New dates, new fish, little drawings, some entries written like stories. April 12th, caught a bluegill. Tyler named it Carl. Grandpa said Carl looked smug. Carl was released. Tyler made a speech. April 19th, we saw a turtle sunbathing. Grandpa said it was smarter than all of us. April 26th, didn't catch anything. Still a great day. I closed the notebook and looked at him. You know this is yours now, right? He nodded. But it's still ours. That was it. Right there. The long arc. The whole point. The slow, invisible victory that no judge could grant and no bank could reclaim. This boy, standing next to me with mud on his shoes and sun on his cheeks, had become the keeper of our time. And he understood what I hadn't when I was his age. That love is a record you keep. Quietly. Faithfully. Without applause. Effie texted me a week later. I'm not afraid to be alone anymore. But I'm not alone. That's the difference. I replied, alone is when no one waits for you. That's never been true here. We'd stopped talking about Neil, not because we were ignoring the damage, but because the repairs had taken hold. There was nothing left to lift that wasn't already in our hands. Tyler asked if he could build a fish trap again. Micah said it was a waste of time. I said, waste all the time you want. That's what it's here for. They laughed, then argued about who would lead the expedition. I leaned back on the bench, let the sun rest on my face. 66 years old, not wealthy, not young, not famous. But I was the most needed I'd ever been. And for once, I had nothing left to prove, only a little more to give. The last Saturday of May was quiet. No wind, no clouds, just warm sun and the buzz of cicadas getting brave early. I picked up the boys just before noon. Tyler had a shoebox under his arm, held tight like treasure. Micah carried 2 water bottles, a notebook, and that same fishing log, now worn at the corners, swollen with additions. What's in the box? I asked. Tyler grinned. A surprise, Micah added. I tried to stop him. You didn't try that hard, Tyler said. We drove out to the old dock at Lake Tarpon. It had been nearly a year since that first trip, the one where everything started coming undone. Then, somehow, back together. I remembered that first Saturday like I remembered the sound of my mother's voice. Not perfectly, but clearly enough to hold. This time, they unpacked the gear without being asked. Micah tied his own line. Tyler tried and got halfway, then handed it to me. Your fingers are magic, he said. Tell that to the last fish I scared away, I replied. We didn't catch much. That wasn't the point. Tyler eventually opened the shoebox. Inside was a mess of pebbles, feathers, a paper fish cut from notebook paper, and 2 lucky worms made of yarn and pipe cleaners. I brought stuff for a fish altar, he said, solemn, to thank them for letting us practice catching them. Micah looked at me. He's on a spiritual journey. I helped him set it up. Right on the edge of the dock. He stood beside it with his hand on his heart and said, Thanks, fish. We won't eat you, probably. Then he sat down and started drawing the whole scene. Micah handed me the notebook again. Can you write something on the last page? I flipped through the whole log first, every page marked by them. Memories layered on top of old ones. It smelled like bait and lake water and pencil lead. I wrote, We came to fish, we stayed to find ourselves. GP Micah read it and nodded. That's good. Tyler added, We should make a real book. Like sell it. Micah said, Only if Grandpa gets half the profits. I want the other half in candy. Later, we sat on the tailgate with cold drinks and silence between us. That kind of silence, the good kind, only shows up when nobody needs to explain anything anymore. Micah looked out at the water. I used to think I had to be mad at him forever, he said. But now I just feel tired. You don't owe him anger, I said. You owe yourself peace. Tyler laid his head on my arm. You think he ever thinks about us? I hope he does, I said. And I hope he gets better. But that's not your job to wait on. Effie picked them up around dusk. She had a tired smile and 2 backpacks over her shoulder. Tyler told me you had a religious experience at the lake. He made an altar to fish. Should I be worried? Only if he starts fasting. She looked at me a long second before saying, They're good. They're solid. You helped build that. You were the one holding the pieces. We all did what we could, she said. She opened the car door, then paused. You know, I don't miss him. I miss who I thought he might be. That's grief, not regret. I know that now. The boys waved through the window. See you next weekend, Tyler shouted. Micah added, Bring snacks. I always do. They drove off. No drama, no wait, just family, carried forward. That night back home, I walked into the spare bedroom, Micah's bunk when they slept over. I sat down on the edge and stared at the wall. There was a new drawing tacked up beside the window. I hadn't noticed it before. A pencil sketch of the dock. 3 figures standing side by side. An old man, 2 boys. Fishing rods in hand. A caption written in tiny print below. Home isn't a place. It's who waits for you. I sat there until the sun dipped, until the shadows stretched long across the floor. And for the first time in years, maybe decades, I didn't feel haunted. No bitterness, no victory lap. Just peace. Earned. Endless. Quiet. And deserved. Thank you for reading. If this story spoke to you, drop a comment, share it with someone who understands the long fight for quiet dignity. Until next time, take care.